When people talk about number one African hero, many names come to mind because Africa has produced countless heroes who fought for freedom, unity, justice, and pride for their people. But the name that most often takes the number one spot is Nelson Mandela. Today, I want to share with you the life of a man who is called the number one African hero. He was a freedom fighter, a father, a leader, and a symbol of peace. His journey from a small village boy to become the first black president of South Africa is one of the greatest stories ever told. So sit with me, relax, let's walk together through the life of Nelson Mandela. Mandela was born on July 18, 1918, in a small village called Mvezo in the Eastern Cape of South Africa. He was born into the Tambo royal family of the Xhosa people. The birth name was Rurara, which in his language means pulling the branches of a tree or simply troublemaker. At that time, nobody knew that this little boy with such a playful name would one day change the story of an entire nation. His father's name was Gadala Henry Pakaliswa, a respected chief and a counselor to the Tambo king. His mother's name was Nosakini Fanny, a gentle and a religious woman who raised him with love and discipline. Mandela's father had 4 wives, as that was common in his culture, and from then he had several children. So Mandela grew up with many brothers and sisters in a large extended family. Even though they were connected to royalty, they lived a simple life, training cattle, farming, telling stories by the fire at night. Mandela was especially close to his mother. He once said that she was the one who planted in him the seed of kindness and respect for others. But life was not always easy. When Mandela was only 9 years old, his father died from an illness. This was a big turning point in his life. After his father's death, Mandela was taken to live with one of the chiefs in Tambuland, Chief Joningantaba Dalindeyebo. The chief treated Mandela like his own child, and it was in his home that Mandela was introduced to leadership, traditions, and the idea of service to his people. As a young boy, Mandela loved running in the field, swimming in the stream, and playing stick fighting games with other boys. These games were not just fun, they taught courage, strategy, and discipline. Mandela also listened to elders tell stories about African warriors who fought against colonialism. These stories lit a small fire in his heart, a fire that would grow into a great passion for freedom. This was Mandela's childhood, a mix of tradition, simplicity, and the first lesson of leadership. Mandela was lucky because, unlike many African children of his time, he got the chance to go to school. His mother took him to a small missionary school near his village. It was there that his teacher gave him the name Nelson. At that time, it was common for African children to be given English names in schools. So little Rorihaha became Nelson. Mandela loved learning. He was a bright child, curious and hardworking. He went from village school to Crackberry Boarding Institution, where he studied English, history, and geography. Later, he attended Hilltown, a strict Methodist college where discipline was very important. Mandela wore a suit for the first time. He began to dream of becoming something greater than a village boy. Then, after that, Mandela joined the University of Fort Hare, the top university for black students in South Africa as at that time. At Fort Hare, Mandela studied law and politics. He met other young Africans who also wanted to see freedom and justice. But Mandela was not only reading books, he was also learning about leadership. At Fort Hare, students were active in debates and student councils. Mandela himself was elected to the Student Representative Councils. However, he soon faced his first act of rebellion. When students protested against poor conditions at the school, Mandela joined them. He refused to stay quiet. Because of this, he was expelled from Fort Hare before finishing his degree. This was painful for him, but it also showed that Mandela was not afraid to stand up for what he believed in, even as a young man. After leaving Fort Hare, Mandela returned home, but things has changed. The chief has arranged a marriage for him. Mandela did not want this. He wanted to choose his own path. So together with his cousin, he ran away to Johannesburg. This was the city of gold, full of opportunities, but also full of struggles. In Johannesburg, Mandela worked many small jobs as a guide and even in the mines, but he never gave up on his dream of education. He continued his studies by correspondence and later enrolled at the University of Witwatersrand to study law. It was in Johannesburg that Mandela truly opened his eyes to the harsh reality of South Africa. He saw with his own eyes how the system of apartheid controlled everything. Apartheid was a system that divided people by race. White people had power, land, jobs, and rights. Black people had almost nothing. Mandela could not accept this. His heart burned with anger, but also with determination. He decided that he would dedicate his life to fight this injustice. In the city, Mandela also found love. He married his first wife, Evelyn Ntoko Massey, a nurse. Together they had 4 children, but because of Mandela was so busy with the struggles and politics, their marriage later ended. Still, Mandela kept moving forward. He qualified as a lawyer and with his friend Olivia Tambo, he opened the first black law firm in South Africa. They gave legal help to poor people who were misled by the apartheid government. In 1940s, Mandela joined the African National Congress called ANC. The ANC was the main political group fighting for the rights for the black South Africans. But Mandela and his young friends felt that the ANC was moving too slow. They wanted more action. So in 1944, Mandela, together with Walter Sisulu, Olivia Tambo, and others, formed the ANC Youth League. This goal was to bring new energy and bold action into the fight for freedom league. Mandela quickly became a leader in the Youth League. He was tall, confident, and spoke strongly. People listened to him. He believed that black people deserve the same rights as everyone else. The right to vote, to own land, to live in any area, and to have dignity. In 1948, the National Party came to power in South Africa. They introduced strict apartheid laws. These laws forced people to live in separate areas, use different schools, buses, hospital, and even toilets. Black people could not vote. They could not own good land and were treated as foreigners in their own country. Mandela and the ANC could not accept this. They started peaceful protests, strikes, and boycotts. In the early 1950s, Mandela became the leader of this defense campaign, where thousands of people broke apartheid laws peacefully to show they were unjust. During this time, Mandela was arrested many times. He was banned from public gatherings. Police watched him closely, but he never gave up. He and Oliver Tambo also opened the first black law firm where they helped poor people who were victims for apartheid laws. This made Mandela very popular among the other South Africans. In 1956, Mandela and over 150 activists were arrested and charged with tensions, which means trying to overthrow the government. The trials lasted for 4 long years. In the end, Mandela and others were found not guilty. But by then, the government has already marked him as a dangerous man. In 1960, something terrible happened. Police opened fire on peaceful protests in a place called Chapville. More than 60 people were killed. This tragedy changed everything. The ANC, which has been peaceful, was banned by the government. Mandela and his members had to go underground. They could no longer meet openly. Mandela believed that peaceful protest alone was not long enough. He helped form another group called Super of the Nation. They did not attack people, but they bombed government buildings and power stations to send a message. Mandela became the commander of this group. He trained in secret, traveled to other African countries, and even learned guerrilla warfare. By now, Mandela was known everywhere. To the apartheid government, he was the Black Pimpernel because he was always hiding and escaping arrest. But to the people, he was becoming a hero. In 1962, Mandela was finally arrested. He was charged with leaving the country and initiating workers to strikes. He was sentenced to 5 years imprisonment. But in 1963, he was given a trial. At this trial, Mandela gave a speech that shocked the world. He said, "I have cherished the idea of a democratic and a free society. It is an idea for which I am prepared to die." In 1964, Mandela and his crew member were sentenced to life imprisonment. Mandela was only 46 years old. Many thought his story was over, but the truth is, it was just the beginning. In 1964, Mandela was first taken to Robben Island, a small island near Cape Town. This prison was cold and hard. Mandela and other political prisoners were kept in a small cell with only a mat on the floor. Every day, they were forced to work in the hot sun, breaking stones or digging in a lime quarry. The white guards treated them badly. They were given little food, and sometimes the food was dirty. Mandela's cells was so small that he could only stretch out his arms and touch both walls. He spent 18 years of his life in that tiny cell. Even though life was hard, Mandela never gave hope. He studied, he exercised, and he taught other prisoners. Prisoners became like a school of freedom. Mandela said, "We must use time wisely, even in prison." He was not allowed to see his family often. For years, he could only write and receive one letter every six months. Visits from family were short and watched by guards. His second wife, Winnie Mandela, became his voice outside. She spoke strongly against the government, even though she was also harassed and arrested many times. As the years passed, Mandela's name grew bigger. People around the world began to call for his release. In 1970s and in 1980s, there were huge campaigns, Free Nelson Mandela. Musicians, students, leaders, and ordinary people joined the cell. Mandela became the symbol of the struggle for freedom, even though he was behind the bars. In 1982, Mandela and some of his colleagues were moved from Ruben Island to Polismoro prison and later to Victor Vasta prison. The conditions were a little better, but he was still not free. The apartheid government tried to make deals with Mandela. They told him, "If you stop fighting, we will let you go." But Mandela refused. He said, "Only free man can negotiate. Prisoners cannot enter into contracts." By the late 1980s, South Africa was under pressure. The economy was suffering and the world was against the apartheid government. The government realized it could not continue. In 1990, after 27 years in prison, President F.W. de Klerk finally announced that Mandela would be released. On February 11, 1990, Mandela walked out of the prison hand in hand with Winnie. He was 71 years old. The world watched as this tall, calm man raised his feet in the air. After 27 years, he was free. But his message was not about revenge. He was about peace. He said, "I stand here before you not as a prophet, but as a humble servant of you, the people." Mandela became the main leader of the freedom struggle. Together with the President F.W. de Klerk, he began talks to end apartheid government. It was not easy. There was violence, anger, and fear. Some people wanted war, but Mandela kept saying, "Let us build peace, not destroy each other." In 1993, Mandela and de Klerk received the Nobel Peace Prize for their efforts. Finally, in April 1994, South Africa held his first democracy election. For the first time, Black people could vote. Millions of people stood long line for hours just to cast their votes. Then, the results came. Nelson Mandela's party, the ANC, won, and Mandela became the first Black president of South Africa. This was a historical moment. A man who had been a prisoner was now the leader of the whole country. Mandela was president from 1994 to 1999. His government worked to heal the wounds of the apartheid government. He created the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, led by Archbishop Desmond Tutu. These commissions allow people to tell their stories, forgive, and move forward. Mandela focused on building unity. He invited his old enemy to work with him. He wore the South African jersey to support the national team, showing that sport could unite the country. He improved schools, built houses, and gave more people access to health care. But he knew that healing the soul of the nation was more important than just building roads and buildings. Unlike many African leaders, Mandela chose only one team as president. In 1999, he stepped down, showing the world the true leadership is not about holding power forever, but about serving and then giving others a chance. Mandela left the presidency with respect, love, and honor from his people and from the whole world. After stepping down as president in 1999, Nelson Mandela did not stop working. He was older now, but he continued to serve South Africa and the world in new ways. After leaving office, Mandela became like a wise grandfather to the nation. People called him Mandiba, a name of respect. He traveled around the world, speaking about peace, justice, and equality. He raised money for schools, hospitals, and for fighting disease like HIV/AIDS. In fact, Mandela spoke openly about HIV/AIDS when many leaders were silent. He wanted people to have treatment. He encouraged South Africans to show love, not stigma to those affected. In 1998, at the age of 80, Mandela married Grace Machel, the widow of former Mozambican President Samora Machel. She stood by him in his final years, caring for him with love. Mandela had 6 children in total from his early marriage. Sadly, some of them passed away before him. He also had many grandchildren who love him dearly. By 2004, Mandela officially retired from public life. He said, "Don't call me, I will call you." He wanted to rest after so many years of service. Still, whenever there was a major world issue, his voice was heard. Leaders, celebrities, and ordinary people looked up to him as a symbol of wisdom. As Mandela grew older, his health became weaker. He suffered from lungs problem, which came from the hard years of working in the prison quarry. From 2011 onwards, he was in and out of hospital many times. The nation watched with worries, always praying for him. On December 5th, 2013, Nelson Mandela passed away peacefully at his home in Johannesburg. He was 95 years old. The whole world mourned him. South Africa declared 10 days of national mourning. Leaders across globals came to honor him. Billions of people watched his funeral on television. But even in death, Mandela left a message of peace. His life reminded everyone that forgiveness is stronger than hate, and love is stronger than fear. Mandela spent 27 years in prison, but came out without hate. He showed the world the forgiveness is more powerful than revenge. He taught that even when life is very hard, you must not lose hope. South Africa was once divided by color, by race, by fear. Mandela helped to heal the nation. He made black and white people believe that they could live together as one. He built a bridge between enemies and turned them into partners. Mandela's story is not just for South Africans. It is for every African child, every young man or woman, and for people all over the world. He proved that a poor boy from a small village can grow up to change the world. The United Nations declared July 18, Mandela's birthday, as International Nelson Mandela's Day. On this day, people everywhere are asked to give 67 minutes of their service, 1 minute for each year Mandela served his people. This is to remind us to live like him, serving others with love and sacrifice. Mandela is called African #1 hero because he gave his whole life for freedom. He was ready to die for justice. He led with humility, with kindness, and with great courage. He did not hold power forever. He showed that true leadership is about serving, not about ruling. So my friends, this is the life of Nelson Mandela. Mandela's story is a reminder to all of us, no matter where we are born, no matter how big the struggles, we can rise above it and make a difference. That is why Nelson Mandela will forever be remain as African #1 hero. We have come to the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching, and please do well to like, put down your comments, and subscribe to my channel for more amazing stories and videos like this. Bye, bye-bye. See you in my next video. Bye.